Hello everybody, and welcome back to Eckert's Garden Center. It's another beautiful day here in our garden center. It has been rainy, but you know what? The temperature feels great. The strawberries are ripening, the birds are singing, but all this moisture is giving us an indication that we are right on the cusp of mosquito season. So for today, we're gonna show you a bunch of plants that are great for repelling that summertime pest. So before we begin, there are some things that you need to know. Believe it or not, mosquitoes actually are not predominantly blood feeders. Actually, they prefer nectar. In fact, that's all that the males eat. Nectar and honeydew from plants that is secreted from aphids and such. The females only really need blood in order to feed their young before they lay eggs. So that is the reason that they are targeting you. And it's not just you, they're looking for any warm-blooded mammals to chase after. So birds, squirrels, your cats, your dogs, everything. They're targeting any animal that they can get blood from. So it's not just humans, it's just that we're the biggest, easiest targets to spot. So they're predominantly focused on the CO2, the carbon dioxide that we are breathing out, but they also use their visual senses as well as their heat sensing abilities in order to target you. So these plants that I'm going to show you today are very strong scented, and they're going to help to disrupt the mosquito's ability to sense you. So it's basically a living camouflage. Now, before I show you any of these plants, what I want you to first do is go around your home, look for any pots, anything that might be a source of open standing water, like this right here. See all that standing water from last night's rain? Just dump it right out. Get rid of it, because mosquitoes need sources of standing water in order to breed. So basically, the females will drink blood from you, and then they will lay their eggs someplace where there's water that's going to be consistently standing there so that their eggs can hatch. And it only takes about 2 to 3 days before they hatch, and an entire cycle is only about 10 days from egg to adult. So you don't get very long. So you want to make sure that you get rid of those sources of standing water immediately in order to protect yourself and your home. So once that's out of the way, then you can start focusing on these plants that you can put down to protect your area. The first one that I want to show you is one that you're probably very familiar with. This is sweet basil. So it's used a lot in cooking, but it's also a great plant for helping to repel pests such as mosquitoes. Now, having this plant on its own isn't going to be enough to drive them away. In fact, you may even see them land directly on the plant for a rest. What you're going to do is remove a leaf, just like this, and it's actually the essential oils that are present within the leaf that you want to be able to basically repel the pest. So if you crush it up in your hand, you can take all that and rub it on your skin. Now, I would recommend to test a small area first on your skin, because people have different allergies and I don't want to promote anybody making themselves ill. So make sure to test a small area before you cover your entire body in a plant like this. But this one is very culinary, great for a variety of uses, including mosquito repellent. Now, it's an annual, so that means it's not going to survive from year to year, so you need to go through and replace it in order to have this plant. The next ones that I'm going to show you are also annual, but this is the plant that most people have been looking for. This one is a citronella-scented geranium. This is not true citronella. True citronella is actually a type of grass. It's kind of hard to find. I will show you its closely related cousin in just a minute, but this is the plant most people are requesting. So this plant, I know you can't smell it through there, but it has a very strong woodsy sort of scent, very lemony and citronella all in one. It's a great plant that if you pinch it back, it's going to get very, very bushy. Once again, this is an annual, so you won't be able to keep it from year to year, but it is definitely a good choice for helping to repel those mosquitoes. I also have a different variety. This one is labeled as mosquito shocker. So this is basically, if you can zoom in here and see, leaves are very, very similar. They're probably just two different strains of the exact same kind of plant. Their fragrances are very, very similar. There's a slight difference. This one's a little bit more oaky, a little bit more woodsy than this one, but both definitely good choices to have in your garden. They work great in a pot, and they'll get bigger and bigger as long as you have them in the sun where they can store up plenty of energy. We also have a whole selection of just various types of scented geranium. These don't have quite as much of a citronella scent. In fact, this particular one, I picked it because it's one of my favorites. It's called Skeleton Rose, and it is kind of a rosy scented fragrance. I still get that citronella, but I just love this one with those really interesting sort of skeletal looking leaves. Once again, an annual, so you would have to replace. Now, the next few plants that I want to show you, these are tender perennials, which means, yes, they're perennial, but in this zone, they're probably going to freeze out unless you have it in a pot or someplace that's very, very protected from freezing temperature. This one right here is called lemon eucalyptus. And the next series of plants that I'm going to show you all have a lemony fragrance, and so you can take that into account. Anything that's got lemon in the title is probably a good choice. I love this one because it is a type of eucalyptus, so you get a little bit of that eucalyptus fragrance, but also on the lemony side, so it's kind of a double whammy. This plant can get really big in the right conditions, 30 feet tall. You're probably never going to get a chance to see it get that big because we have to keep it in a container here, but just be aware that it is going to get larger, so you want to make sure you give it plenty of room. Next up, this is the plant I was referring to when I told you that true citronella comes from a grass. This one is called lemongrass, and it's used a lot in Asian cooking, and it's also one of the most powerful repellents that we have. Once again, the actual insects may land on the leaves, so you have to do the work of crushing or breaking up the leaf in order to release the essential oil and rub it on your skin so that you have that living camouflage. But having the plant itself is also good, just because as you brush it, you'll smell a little bit of its essential oil. This plant does get rather large. It is an annual for us, like I said, tender perennial, annual, so it probably won't survive the winter, but it gets quite large, so make sure to give it a lot of space. Next up, this is lemon thyme, and this is a true perennial. This is more of a ground cover. So this girl isn't as strongly scented, but if you want something that's going to come back year after year, and if you want to put it in an area that doesn't typically get a lot of water, this is a great choice for that, and it's culinary. We also have, this one is a fascinating plant, lemon verbena. You can see that she's blooming right now. She has delicate little white flowers, not necessarily the most fascinating flowers, but they are beautiful nonetheless, and it's used a lot in potpourri. This one I love because these strong little leaves have a really strong lemony scent. I can actually smell it all the way through my mask, so I definitely recommend this one. But this one is tender, so it may not survive unless you have it in a pot. It'll get about 4 feet tall, just so that you're aware of it, but definitely one I would recommend for your garden. I'm going to take a break from those for a moment, and I'm actually going to zoom in on these annuals. So most people are familiar with marigolds, but did you know that marigolds are actually a very powerful pest repellent? So not only are they beautiful, and the petals are absolutely edible, this is a great plant to deter pests and also feed a lot of the pollinators that need nectar. So this plant definitely gets a gold star for its attendance in any garden. You can put it in any vegetable garden, you can put it in your annual beds, you can put it in pots, anywhere you like. And this is a great one to have all around. Put it next to your walkways, anywhere. It does have kind of a repellent scent that not all humans enjoy, but remember, you're planting it so that you can protect you and your home. Next up, so these two are very, very similar. We have lemon balm. Once again, we have lemon in the name. This one is a tried and true perennial, and we also have catnip. We have talked about the catnip in the past, but it is also an effective mosquito repellent. And once again, with both of these plants, you have to actually break the leaves in order to get the benefits. But both of these can be used culinarily as well, so you have multiple uses. Next up, lavender. Now, I chose the smelliest, most hardy lavender that we have around, called Munstead lavender. And when I say smelly, I mean that it has a pleasant fragrance. So it's good for us, not so great for mosquitoes and trying to sense you. And this particular variety does well in our areas, whereas some varieties, they're a little bit on the cusp of their range and they won't tolerate it. But you can rely on this one. Right next to it is this rosemary. The ARP rosemary is used a lot for culinary, but because it is so strongly fragranced, you can use those oils, rub it on your skin, and it will help protect you and also be delicious in all of your roasts. And then finally, this is a sage, and once again, sage is used culinarily, but just like the other members, this particular one can be rubbed on your skin to help protect you and flavor dishes. Hopefully that has inspired all of you folks to try something different, and with any luck, you won't see nearly as many mosquitoes this year. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy planting.